Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. We are diving into some more holiday cards, but this is not a holiday card video necessarily. I wanted to take an opportunity to show you a bunch of different things. I just happen to be making some snowflakey cards. But let's talk about first, I get this question a lot, how do I store my stamps and my dies? And I have actually switched over to these envelopes. So I got these from Amazon and I love the sturdiness of them and I love just the way they open, the size. They're clear obviously, but I feel like they're big enough to fit my stamps and my dies inside them. And quite honestly, I don't think they're that expensive. So I switched over to them. I have them both in the smaller size and the larger. I actually get a variety pack. And so there's the answer to that question. That's how I store them. And I keep the backing of the original packaging so that I don't have to label everything. Kind of saves me a step or two. So all right, let's get into our first card. So this one I'm going to be making is going to be a Heat Emboss Resist. So if you're new to this technique, I go through this pretty much from start to finish. So the first thing you want to do is you want to stamp out your stamps in a clear sticky ink. Okay, so I'm going to be using this brand from scrapbook.com. There are multiples on the market, but before you do anything, you want to use your anti-static powder tool and you're going to rub your cardstock with that. That's going to eliminate static so that the embossing powder doesn't stick everywhere. I'm going to ink it up, and I actually do it twice. That's why I love my Stampin' Positioner, because I can just keep it in there and get a really solid image from that sticky ink. Then I'm going to pour over my white embossing powder. You can use clear because your background is white, that's fine, but I find that using the white embossing powder gives me an even more white image. So that's why I opt for that. Okay, behind the scenes here, this is how I store both my dye ink, blending brushes, and my oxide ink. I do get that question a lot, as well as how I swatch out my stuff. So I keep a binder, and this download, this printable download is actually from Catherine Puller. I have all of the inks from Catherine Puller in the dye form. Those are my dye inks, and then I have the oxide inks separate. So pretty much those are the only two sets of inks I have. I don't have every ink on the market. I've narrowed it down to my favorites. And I'm going to go through my swatch and I'm going to pick out which one is going to be what I'm looking for my card. I also want to pause here for a second and show you those little dots on each of my swatches. That means I have the re-inker for them. So that's my way of knowing automatically what I need to order, because I don't order all at once. I go in kind of phases of things. All right, let's get to ink blending. So I'm going to choose, of course, my Catherine Puller dye inks. This is not Bristol Smooth Cardstock. This is regular white cardstock. I believe this is from Accent Opaque. And so that's what's great about these dye inks, but also it's like a trifecta. Using ink blending brushes helps also, but I'm going to go back and forth over the colors. Of course, I sped this up, but you want to hit your one color, go to the next, then go back to the first color. That's going to give you a nice blend. So I do 2 coats of this over the entire card panel. Using Bristol Smooth Cardstock would have been an even easier blend. It's just a little bit more of an expensive cardstock, so keep that in mind. But I don't use it for bases. I do use it for just card panels, and so it is worth it. I highly recommend Bristol Smooth Cardstock for ink blending. I also recommend it for when you're using water brush markers, like the real brush water pens. The Bristol Smooth is amazing. Okay, so now I'm going to go through finishing up my ink blending, but I have all this ink left over, okay? So we don't want to waste that. I'm going to spritz my watercolor cardstock, and then I'm going to pick up this ink. I can put this to the side and use this for another background. I see still some leftovers, so I'm going back in with card panel 2. Because you know me, I like to use it up. All right, so that's plenty. We'll clean that up. Now, we take a microfiber cloth and we're going to go in and just wipe away that ink from our snowflakes. So that's going to give that much brighter white look. All right, so that is something you do not want to skip when you're doing this process. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white paint. This is the Dr. Martin's PH Dr. Martin's white paint, and it is the most opaque when it dries. So what I love about adding the splatters on top of that is Even if my ink blending is not perfect, when you add the white splatters to look like snow, you're not even going to notice it. It really does a great job at kind of camouflaging that. I'm going to do the same to these panels, even though it doesn't show up quite as well. But I just wanted to keep that in there because I'm going to use them for something else. All right, let's move on to the next card. Now, I'm going to show you a lot of tips and tricks for getting this perfect alignment for this shaker. So the first thing you're going to do is lay out your snowflakes or whatever image you're stamping, and you're going to stamp them out. Okay, at this point, I'm going to insert a money savings tip. So this scrubber right here that I'm using, this is from Hero Arts. And it's a wood block with this certain kind of material on the front. And I love it because it's handheld, so I can, just clean off my stamps wherever I want. But I was trying to figure out what that material is on that scrubber. So a lovely viewer asked me if it was similar to the paint edging materials that you get when you're painting, and I put it on the screen here for you, and 100% yes, that's exactly what it is. So if you already have that in your stash of things in your house, you try that because it works beautifully, and it's handheld too. It's also half the price basically when you look at cost comparison of both of those products. So you can check that out. I'll link them below if you wanted to see for yourself. Okay, so let's get back to this shaker card. So that's what we're making. I'm going to run these through my die cutting machine. I'm going to get each of those cut out. Now, I put those aside because we're not going to use them for this particular card. But the next thing I wanted to talk about is perfect placement. So because I use the stamp positioner, I just put another card panel in there, and I'm going to stamp that out again. Now, in theory, because they're in the same spot, I could line up this right behind those die cuts in the shaker card panel, and they'll go perfect. So let's see how that works. Before we get there, I wanted to add a little bit of color to the center of my snowflakes here just to add a little bit of dimension. So I did that. Okay, now I have this piece, this back piece, and I have the part where I used my dies to cut out the front. And we have, not yet because it's upside down, now we do. Now we have perfect placement, like to the T. The only thing really you have to make sure is that your card panels are cut exactly the same size. That's it. And then it's going to line up beautifully. So I was really, really excited about that because I didn't want to keep those blank. Like I wanted to have the snowflakes behind. All right, next money savings tips in this video is to use packaging. You have it. You order stuff. It comes. Don't throw it away. Use that packaging and you can use it for your shaker cards. I have acetate. I use acetate. I think it's great, especially when you want to heat emboss on it. But if you're not heat embossing on it, why spend the extra money? Just use what you have. It's a great, way to recycle. I'm going to use this very, very thin 1/8 inch score tape around my card panel. But before I do any more foam or anything like that, I'm actually going to add a little bit of ink. So this is another tip to really kind of make your card panel come alive. Use a lighter ink and then a darker ink right on the edges, whatever color you want. Sometimes I use black and it gives this beautiful shadow effect, even if you use colored on the inside. So that's another tip I wanted to make sure that I kept in there. Now I'm going to pull off my 1/8 inch double-sided adhesive backing, and I'm going to place my packaging tape right on top of that. Anything that kind of lays over it or it's excess, I'm just going to trim it off with my scissors. But so far, so good. So once I get that done, I'm then going to I'm going to make sure we're still lining up, of course, and we are. And now we are. This is making me real nervous, folks. I'm not going to lie to you because I'm going to show you a trick on how to get perfect placement on top of your shaker. And it's you just got to double and triple check. Okay, before we get there, I'm going to put my foam tape down. Now, I'm using this very thin foam tape right here. I think it's perfect because it gives me an opportunity to delineate between each of those snowflakes too. All right, here's what I was talking about. So you're going to take back out your positioner. You're going to put that card, the card panel inside your positioner. You're going to fill it with all your shaker goods. So that's what I'm going through first. I'm filling it up. Does anyone else suffer from the affliction of too little, too much shaker insides. I have such a hard time figuring out how much to put in, but trial and error. Okay, also, picket fence, I gotta tell you, I need to let picket fence know about these containers. They really aren't that good. They have the sequins falling all out. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's me, but beautiful sequins. It's just that container causes me heartache. Okay, let's go back to the card. So I'm going to finish up putting my stuff in. Now I'm going to carefully pull away my scrapbook.com foam adhesive. Okay, that's what I'm using. And you want to be careful because if you're jostling around, your shaker bits are going to stick to your foam tape, and that's just no fun. Now I'm going to line this up. This is going to do the work for me. I'm just going to put it in the corner of my stamp and positioner, and now I just lay it down. The only thing I got to do now is cross my fingers that I line that up correctly, and it was on the right side, facing the right way. So let's do that. Cross the fingers. And we're going to turn it over, and it was perfect. Yes. Okay, so now we have our shaker card done. We have both cards here. I'm just going to add some embellishments to both of these cards, more so on the left. I am going to show you the finished card in just a minute. But I'm really excited to have shared this video with you. As I was making these cards, I realized all the little tips and tricks I picked up along the way, and I kind of was more present with that because I wanted to talk about those and not skip over them throughout this video. So I'm hoping it was helpful. I'm hoping you took away a little nugget here or there for your card making. Not even just your holiday card making, but just card making in general. Thank you so much for joining me here on the channel today to check out this video. I'll list everything I used in this video below in the description box so you can check it out if you want to. I'll also list where you can get a free printable download from me to maybe practice some coloring. You'll see that link as well as other links where we can connect in different platforms. Thank you so much again. I'll see you all in the comments down below and in the next video. Bye-bye.